This video, at its core, has a point to prove, and that point is, my life is a joke. October 2025. The UK job market's doing its best impression of Pope Francis. I don't live with my parents, my hopes aren't exactly high, and floating face down in the river is starting to look like a cheaper alternative to a pension. And then I remembered that 11 months ago I did something kind of funny, and should probably do it again. That decision both introduced a hell of a lot of people to my channel, and single-handedly reversed my opinion on 2026. Hence my saying, my life is a joke. But sometimes, let's be honest, it's quite funny. So, this is the Emblem video. Whether you've come demanding answers, you have this playing on the second monitor whilst you look up what the word Emblem means, or have simply come for my script writing chops, I'm indifferent towards you all the same, as today we take a look at the few heroes I got wrong in which Marvel Rivals Heroes are Virgins. And I say few because I actually did really well. In fact, discounting the no dice tier, there's only 5 heroes I really want to have a proper discussion about. Speaking of though, if we are looking for somewhere to park the car of conversation, that's not the worst place to start. Post-editing me is going to put up a tier list with all of the characters I want to talk about removed. You can see here as well that I took the liberty of putting Rogue and Deadpool in the big win tier. The no dice tier was controversial because technically all of these characters can be ranked, and I just wasn't prepared to do so. These characters include trees, animals and children and robots. Immediately we can place Penny and Groot into the can't expect to win them all tier. I remind the Tumblr users amongst you that whilst Penny is 18 in the Marvel Rivals universe, in most continuities she isn't. And on the other side of things, Groot being a tree either reproduces asexually or doesn't. And until he tells me what his preference is, he's gonna sit in this tier and think about his life. The rest of these fallen leaves, however, tell a slightly different story. Ultron has had a wife since 1977. When I first saw these comments flooding in, I dismissed them. I assumed this was some sort of Discord group LARPing session that was taken out of DMs. I was then, as we say here in England, shown the door. What in the hot, crispy Kentucky Fried Circuits do you mean Ultron has a wife, when most of my viewers have never even been caught in the same room as a woman? Just like using snakes as shoelaces, the answer was never going to be simple. The summary I'm going to give you is that Ultron brainwashed his creator, Hank Pym, into building him a wife's body, and then there was also some mind-swapping you don't care. Jeffrey. To say there were a few comments telling me that Jeff apparently has a bunch of dead kids in the Age of Revelation X-Men storyline would be an understatement. There were several comments telling me that Jeff apparently has a bunch of dead kids in the Age of Revelation X-Men storyline. And I can't prove it. I genuinely can't prove it. I could not find any evidence of this on the internet. I've clearly been looking at Galactus' taint from the wrong angle here, as from what I understand, there is no photographic or anecdotal evidence of this on the web at all. Wait, actually, scratch that. I haven't asked ChatGPT yet. Hello, Mr. GPT, I need your help with something. Concluding this section with Rocket, I'm pretty sure I pissed off an entire Discord server's worth of furries with this one, as I had several comments from furries in repetition of one another, genuinely furious I didn't discuss the intimate affairs of an animal. You people are inhumane. Well, I was able to find out that all of Rocket's exes have formed a group called the X-Terminators, with their sole goal of trying to kill him after he dumped and robbed them all, which is really funny. I like Rocket. Anyway, I'm going to be placing all of these characters in the yes but not in rivals tier. Might seem a bit weird to put Ultron and Jeff in there, but being married was the sole definer of being in the big win tier, other than having children or, other proof. And even though he calls his drones children in game, since his wife isn't mentioned, I think yes but not in rivals is pretty fitting. And then as for Jeffy, I'm fully confident I've missed something and I'm trying to safety proof this video for future. Either that, or this whole affair has been one of the greatest pranks in my life. And would you look at that, we're halfway through the video. Yeah, fat chance. Okay, 3 things I've got to mention moving forward. Number 1 is that there's a big section at the end of this video dedicated to clearing up mistakes I made that don't affect tier list placement, and also defending the various decisions that I got right that people think I got wrong. Second is that you should subscribe right now, or else I'm going to send the world's best Loki main round to your house. He's going to politely knock on your door, fine you £37, and then punch your stupid eyes into your stupid head. And third is that we are now adding more characters to our roster of discussion, as we are just going to straight up delete the It's a Draw tier. The existence of this tier was one that made a lot of people unfathomably angry, and so I have decided to run a retraction. Okay, so I remind you that these characters are the ones from Norse mythology. They're not based on the ones from Norse mythology, and because Norse mythology doesn't translate 100% to Marvel continuity, that's why the It's a Draw tier existed. In my efforts to swallow my own pride though, I decided to just look up whether these characters had any examples of them doing stuff in Marvel continuity, and I've come to understand that they're all just worthy of the yes but not in rivals tier. All of these characters have either had spouses, children, or other stuff happening in the comics, but I don't think any references to what we're specifically looking for currently exist in game yet, especially since this image went nowhere. So for now we're just gonna move past these guys because they've given me a major headache. Let's talk about someone more simple, Angela. So in the previous video I said that Angela's wife had never been mentioned in game and therefore she was only deserving of the yes but not in rivals tier, and this turned out to be entirely wrong, as she has one voice line in game referencing her sort of ex-wife. They physically separated but not emotionally or something, I don't know, I also don't care, and so she gets bumped up into the big win tier. Now Bucky was by far the character I did the dirtiest, and just owe you nothing but an apology on this one. I completely forgot that there's a comic timeline where Bucky and Widow get married, which is especially funny as I was using the Mrs. Barnes skin in the video several times over. Now I haven't really talked about how we're handling skins versus how we're handling canonical depictations in Rivals, but I think we can all agree that skins don't really count for very much, and so Bucky's just gonna squeeze on up there into the yes but not in Rivals tier. We'll save magic for later, as Scarlet Warlock and Adam Witch are two characters I got wrong just by missing something simple. I take a look back at some of my research, and sometimes I feel like I have the research skills of a badger with a tyre track down the middle of its head, but then I remember that I actually did the research instead of asking ChatGPT to wipe my ass for me, so yeah, it didn't do too bad. Marvel, or Captain Marvel, not to be confused with Captain Marvel, is Adam Warlock's son in the Earth X timeline, which counts for this video. The Scarlet Bitch situation, however, is actually insane. There is a comic where Wanda and her twin brother Pietro are in love, and Captain America is depicted as a bigot for not being okay with it. I almost wish the comment section had never pointed that one out, but to be fair, it's kind of funny. And then there was one, and unfortunately this one has been done. Okay, so I was going to move magic down into the can't expect to win them all tier, as the comments let me know that I most likely misinterpreted a joke about her being a freak. But then, like 2 days before which Marvel Rivals Heroes of Virgins would eventually go live, Marvel decides to release a comic where magic gets diddled, comes to fetishize the experience, and then turns into a monster. Genuine wild behaviour. I have nothing to add to that. If you've ever heard anyone refer to the magic situation, then this is exactly what they're talking about. I'm sorry, but the timing on this is too funny. I also just really don't understand what the end goal for this particular comic was, and also I'm sorry if I've misrepresented it, but obviously I'm not going to read it. So magic went back down from one tier into the same place she was initially. We have accomplished absolutely nothing here. Okay, so now we're in the index, so we're going to cover 3 things really quickly that I got wrong that don't affect tier list placement, and then we're going to cover a bunch of things that I got right but I'm going to have to further defend on. So first of all, I was unfortunately wrong in predicting that these teasers would go anywhere. If Venom and Scarlet Witch had confirmed to have been in a relationship truly in-game, then I would have had to have moved both of them up a few tiers, yet since that didn't happen, I didn't need to. Second is that I off the cuff mentioned that both of Reed and Sue's kids weren't mentioned in-game, yet this is actually wrong, as I think the Herbie payload references them both. And finally, I had said that Angela was an original character to Marvel in that she's not an original character to Norse mythology, but turns out both of those things are wrong. She's actually a Spawn original character. And finally, covering the things I got right yet people thought I got wrong, the big standout had to be that I made a joke about Daredevil and Jeff being Marvel Rivals original characters. And so many people genuinely thought I believed these two were Marvel Rivals original characters, which is especially funny as right after I made this joke, I proceeded to talk about Daredevil's life in the comics. Look, I understand the principle of the customer is always right and everything, but some of the people that watched that video are just morons. I also had many people ask me about my tier list placement of Gambit and Rogue in the video, since their relationship isn't exactly a physical one, but I mean, they sleep in the same bed together, I really don't know what else to say. And also they're married, and that was a contributing factor. Whilst I didn't receive very many comments about people complaining about Cloak and Dagger's marital status, I have actually seen a lot of people online since that video came out dunk on the idea of them being sibling coded. And this isn't me trying to take attention for something that's probably not related, but it is me saying that it's nice to see people finally agreeing on something. And finally, I was made alert that Squirrel Girl and Wolverine do have a conversation in-game referencing their retconned relationship, and I've debated on how I want to handle this, and I'm choosing to interpret this specific conversation as a reference to the fact that their relationship was retconned. I don't think this is these two acknowledging their history. I think this is the writers of this game acknowledging the fact that the age gap between these two was way too weird for it to ever be normal. And with that, we finally have our complete... Oh yeah, Galactus a virgin, by the way. And with that, we finally have our complete ranking, maybe, for which Marvel Rivals heroes are virgins. Going back on my audio whilst editing this, I realised a lot of what I've said has probably come off as a bit whiny, and I promise you that really wasn't my intention. This video means a lot to me, but this game means even more, and anyone who's stopped by my channel means even more than that. To rephrase slightly, out of all of the mistakes I've made during the course of my channel, you were not one of them. Thank you, from the bottom of my heart, yeah I've got like 9, for checking out that video and coming back to watch this one. And I know I've already told people to subscribe, but if you have enjoyed the pissing contest that is this video, why not stick around for the next one? And so until the day comes when Gambit finally gets that maid dress skin they've been teasing, my name is Lon'qudor, glory to Kingsman, and remember it's always morally correct to bully these two if you find them in game.